Looking through the crystal ball, can you?
Ciao and welcome to Gio's Paintbrush, where art is for everyone and 5 minutes is all it takes to be blown away by one of the greatest artists in the world. In today's show, we're going to talk about Pablo Picasso's Guernica, oil on canvas painted in 1937. While I can think of a number of Italian Renaissance and French Impressionist paintings I would describe as the most beautiful, Picasso's Guernica is the most powerful painting I have ever experienced. The scale of this anti-war masterpiece is enormous, a full 25 feet long, as if the subject of the mural was simply too big and too important to be contained in conventional space. Looking at Guernica, you understand instantly what Picasso meant about modern artists taking apart realistic images and reconstructing those images in an abstract way in order to get at their essential truth. No photo, no naturalistic painting or sculpture, no film, no words could possibly engender a more primal and powerful response to mankind's cruelty to mankind than the broken pieces of imagery in Picasso's Guernica. Picasso painted Guernica in Paris for the Spanish Pavilion at the 1937 World's Fair. He did so at the request of Spain's Republican government, which was engaged in a bloody civil war against Francisco Franco and his fascists. In the spring of '37, Hitler ordered the German Luftwaffe to bomb the small Basque town of Guernica in northern Spain to aid the fascist cause. The relentless German bombs destroyed the town, killing hundreds of defenseless civilians, many of them women and children. Newspaper and radio coverage around the globe carried news of the horror. Picasso, enraged and moved by the suffering of his native Spain and by the cruel waste of human life at Guernica, chose this bombing as his subject of the work for the exhibition. The mural is complex, working on many levels. First, there is the immediate emotional response to the suffering depicted in the painting. The fleeing women, the mother anguishing over the lifeless body of her child, the tortured horse squealing in agony, the dead soldier. You actually feel this painting even before you begin to process the deconstructed images intellectually. Second, the colors, white, gray, olive green, and newsprint, call to mind the news reports of that era. Today, in an internet and cable television world, suggesting a hint of nostalgia too. And finally, there is the reality that this tragedy was also a national tragedy, a terrible event in the history of one proud and rather unique nation, Spain. As it turns out, weeping women are common in Spanish religious paintings, and the blinded horse is the first kill during a bullfight, with the bull goring the horse to death. In Guernica, the horse represents a defenseless victim being brutalized at the hands of the bull, which represents Spain. In this way, Picasso reveals how Spain is destroying itself through civil war. And the mother and child depicted call to mind the Pietà, the common artistic rendering of Mary holding Jesus' lifeless body in her hands following the crucifixion, demonstrating both the scope of this atrocity and the important role the Catholic Church plays in Spanish history. But Guernica transcends the very Spanish genre of history painting, seeking to expose for all mankind the inhumanity of war, of violence as a means of exercising political control over human beings, and probably something rather insidious within human nature, within all of us, that must be carefully watched and checked. Interestingly, the theme of the Paris exposition at which Picasso exhibited Guernica was how technology can provide entertainment and leisure in the modern era. And yet in this painting, the only light shines from an electric light bulb that illuminates with its artificial glow nothing but death and pain and destruction. So much for technology as a bright light leading the way to a better world. I imagine the people of Guernica would have had their doubts about that too. Finally, it's worth quoting Picasso himself about the purpose of Guernica and of art in general. Painting is not done to decorate apartments. It is an instrument of war, against brutality and darkness. Not a bad definition of art and its value to society in the modern world, don't you think? Thanks for joining.